Welcome back, students. And in this module, we will learn about magazines. So, before we start, I just want to quickly get started with some of the important aspects of magazines, and I want to kind of share with you, what we actually discussed with regard to trends and convergence in newspapers. As I told you, try to look at every mass medium through the three lenses: how it is profit centers, how technology affects production, delivery, and consumption, and how actually it affects politics, society, and culture. We looked at with regard to newspaper, how it's profit centered, and how technological changes has affected the production of a newspaper, its delivery, and its consumption, and how it affects society as such. I think in this module we will look at the trends and convergence in magazines, and I just want to kind of start this class with this cover, which came out in July 2015. And this took the social media by storm. I mean, I think a lot of you might be aware of who this person is. In 1976, Bruce Jenner won the Olympic decathlon gold medal for United States, and he was a very popular star athlete at that point in time. And then he was known for being the stepdad for the Kardashians. And in July 2015, he came out openly saying that that he was a transgender, and he wanted the world to call him Caitlyn. And this created a lot of buzz among the community across the country. And again, you might be wondering, like, why would a magazine cover attract so much attention in 2015? Is something that I want you to think about, because yeah, we discussed how in the 1690 the first newspaper that was that was launched through public occurrences, and pretty much newspaper was the only source of information for the people till the beginning of the 20th century. But then magazine also kind of slowly got kind of breakthrough into this information field as well, because people also wanted to know about a lot of stuff that's happening. And there was a demand, and a lot of people made use of this demand and started this magazine industry. And it has been successful for quite some time, but it is finding ways to adapt itself. So for instance, this cover photograph was taken by Annie Leibovitz, and she has done a lot of photographs for magazine covers and all that. And the point that I am trying to stress is, a magazine cover is more than just any other cover. It's a fashion statement. It's pretty much it can have such deep impact among us, and a lot of people might take a magazine cover for granted, but it has so much power which you and I cannot comprehend. That's the power of magazine. And I just want to share with you this particular photograph which was featured on National Geographic. Again, this was very iconic magazine cover that was in way back in 1980s. And this just shows about an Afghan girl. And I think this photographer was trying to kind of document the refugees in Pakistan, northern province of Pakistan. And this girl was from Afghanistan. And again, this had so much of impact. You might think just a photograph, right? But then the eyes talks to us. They say the color of the eyes and the background, and you can see a little bit of green shawl that kind of matches so much. And there's something charismatic about this photograph, and that's what it is all about. Yes, it's just a face of a girl, but then it has some kind of power to it, and that is the value of magazine can have profound impact on our society. And imagine, this is the kind of body image we have for ourselves. For instance, if I'm going to ask you, like, no, how would you rate your body image on a scale of 10? I guess most of you will be probably saying, like, well, about 4, 5, 6. Nobody thinks it's perfect. Who sets the standard? Because we think, oh, having a size 0 is something beautiful. I think Sometimes unconsciously we are reinforced with the message of what the true standard of beauty is, and that is one of the reason that magazine can have a very very deep impact about our standard of beauty. And let's jump into some of the magazines, but before that I want to ask you a question. What is the difference between a newspaper and a magazine? Just take some time and analyze. So what is the one thing that differentiates between newspaper and a magazine? Okay, well, just to kind of understand, okay, why do we read newspapers? Newspaper is more current. Okay, we just want to know what's happening around the world. We want to know what's happening in our locality, and we want to know what's happening in the community, what's happening in the world of politics and science. So we want to keep ourselves updated, current. But on the contrary, magazine has articles of lasting interest, which means it doesn't have to have any kind of time stamp to it. For instance, you do go to a doctor's office. Would you read a There's a newspaper from last month, and there is a magazine from 1985. What would you pick? Definitely the one from 1980, because we really don't want to know what happened like a couple of months back in a newspaper, because that's kind of outdated. So the one thing that differentiates magazine from newspaper is that magazine has articles of lasting interest. I think that is what distinguishes it from newspaper. And again, typically it's targeted at a specific audience, and that's the secret for the success of magazines. And basically it derives income from advertisement, from subscription and newsstand sales. And for instance, I've got this kind of screenshots of various magazines, how magazines are targeting an audience and how they manage to sustain themselves. For instance, this is a screenshot from Women's Health. Okay, and you look closely, I can see, as you can see, they're always trying to subscribe, make people subscribe for the magazines. And their articles will be mostly looking at ways to lose your weight, and how to keep yourself fit, some beauty tips, how to keep your nails strong and clean, and blah blah, so many other stuff. So again, this is what I think they're targeting, just a specific audience, because it talks everything about women's health. So it gives you a lot of tips about how to keep yourself fit, beauty, and all the other stuff that comes along with that. And again, look at some of the ad that they're giving it. They're trying to kind of promote a drink, and this is how the main is going back to the topic, how it is profit centered. They're actually connecting advertisers to the audiences, and this is a great way where women who are interested about their fitness and their beauty, they are exposed to the advertisement, like what to drink and zero carb powder and stuff like that. So just a kind of thing to keep in mind, magazine is all about reaching out to a targeted audience. And the next example is, this is again a Men's Health, where again you see, basically it talks about lots of other stuff, like about body, about fitness, how to improve your sex and style and all the stuff. And again, they again want you to subscribe for the magazine. And again, look at the ad. They're talking about something like a Fitbit, where you can count the number of steps and your blood pressure and heartbeat and all that. So how they kind of customize the ads, or the industry to the audience. And again, so this is what targeting an audience is the key, or is the main agenda behind magazine. And as I told you, they make the money through advertisement, through subscription and newsstand sales. And again, there are again many ways where they reach to, like working mothers, single moms, and gardening and stuff like that. And again, this one talks about people who are working. And then, so look at the 7 night vacation rentals. So how people who are really working on making the money, and also telling them, okay, you also need to take a break from your regular work, and try to kind of go to a vacation at Punta Cana or Cancun or Mexico, or some stuff like that. So again, look at the kind of article they're talking about for working moms, how to kind of have a balance and stuff like that with work and your life, about your career, your lifestyle, and all the other stuff. So basically understand the key thing: magazine is all about targeted audiences, and the main aim is to connect the advertisers with the audience. And just to kind of give you understanding, magazine has still a decent amount of readership, and according to Association of Magazine Media, there are about 1.48 billion editions that was read in 2014. So we really don't know the latest statistics, but then magazine readership is pretty much very encouraging. Unlike newspapers, we have a decent number of people who spend a lot of time reading magazines. And we discussed about Mania's magazine. We discussed both men's health, women's health, and working. There are also something called online magazines, which means you cannot get a physical copy of these magazines, but you can read them online. And Salon and Slate is one of the most popular online magazines. And again, what is the differentiates online magazines? Because imagine if you're going to have a regular magazine, which means you need a publishing unit, you need to invest in papers, you need to invest in high quality printers, and you need to kind of post it to your various subscribers. And look at the chain, and look at the kind of infrastructure, look at the time of money that is being spent at various levels. But having an online magazine get rid of all these things, like having a reason to inventor, having a stock of how many books to be printed, how many magazines to be printed, how many copies to be printed, and all this stuff. You can pretty much have your content uploaded onto your website, and that's about it. And this is just a screenshot from Salon. And look at the way how advertisement and the news article is, because see, you can see it's almost on par with the news article. Because ad is the key thing that runs this magazine, so they want to give more importance for the magazines, where Home Depot has sponsored this Salon. And you can see some of the things that also pops up on the side. So, and again, it's a very small thing: cops kill unarmed black man. And then there's a kind of in-depth article about what exactly happened. So again, Salon is an online magazine, and again they talk of various topics. And again, going back to the concept is, if information is available so easy online, why would I pay money to access Salon? So again, so those are the things that need to keep in mind, that they need to give you really good content so that people pay premium to get the access to the content. And in this way, they also have some analytics of how many people are actually using the site, which can be used for various purposes. For instance, they can say, like, we are an online magazine and there's so much of readership. Look at it has about like 1 million people who are actually accessing this magazine. And sometimes it spikes up, sometimes it goes steady, it fluctuates. But then they are able to give some data to the advertisers, saying, like, so many people are spending so much of time visiting our site. In this way, your brand can have so much of exposure. So this is how they market themselves. So again, there'll be visitors who will be visiting again and again. There'll be unique visitors where they're visiting for the first time, and stuff like that, on which article they're spending most number of times, and how much time they're spending in articles, and what are the articles that kind of spikes their interest. So we are able to get so much of data with an online magazine. I mean, of course, we can do with the regular sales of magazines, where we can find out how many magazines were being sold. But then an online magazine gives you various data of how much time they're spending, what are the articles that actually they're spending the most time, and stuff like that. Again, this is an example of Slate magazine. And again, as you can see, they have some advertisement that's being tailored based on my browsing interest, because I spend a lot of time in B&H, which is a audio video store. And look at the kind of articles that you can see. They talk about entertainment and politics and a mix of everything. So they want to kind of cater to a wide audience. Again, that's the way they have to sustain themselves in an online magazine. Yes, magazines is all about targeted audiences, but also to kind of survive in an online field, they also need to kind of have a little bit of diversity so that they kind of attract a different crowd. And again, this gives you some traffic, like how many people are coming. They have about, like, 3 million visitors over the period of 2 months between September and May. And again, these are the statistics which they use to pitch for the advertisers, and also to kind of promote themselves, and to reach out to wider audiences as well. Well, I think I was kind of fascinated with magazines and all that, and I also wanted to read magazines. There is an app which you can download on your on Android or your iPhone, called Texture. When I was using it, it was free, but then I think you have to be a premium subscriber. So what this app Texture does is it gives you access to possibly all the magazines under the sun. Okay. And again, from A to Z, there are so many magazines. And magazines for cooking, for food, for fitness, for gardening, for parenting, for lifestyle, for sports, for travel. I think it gives you opens you endless possibilities, and you can pretty much access all these magazines on your online platform. See how the technology is changing the way things are being done. So for instance, traditionally speaking, if I want to buy something on food, I have to go to a store and get a magazine about fashion or food. But then with the concept of the internet and the new media technology, you can pretty much access almost all these magazines under one roof, paying just one premium. So look at how technology is changing the way things are being done. Going back to the concept of convergence, how it is all about the melding of communication, electronics, and computer industry, that was made possible because of technology. Because earlier it was all standing by itself, it was a standalone platform. But with the advent of technology, it has made it compatible across all the platforms and making our life easier as well. And again, we are not just looking at magazines just for a pastime or giving us in-depth articles, but look at this particular screenshot of the Sky magazine. You have something called QR code, where for instance, you're reading this magazine and you want to kind of know more about what this um, show is all about, and you want to have some kind of interactivity with the content as well. So all you have to do is, if you need to have your phone QR code scanner app, and once you scan the QR code, that will take you to the site where you can know more about the show. You can look at the trailer and stuff like that. So that's how they are able to interact, because earlier magazine was just kind of gives you a basic insight about what's happening, but then now it also takes you to another level. So okay, if you want to know the visual element of what this show is all about, click on, just use your QR code and you can go straight into what the show is all about. See how it's kind of making it interactive. Readers are able to interact with the magazines. It is not just one way anymore, where we just kind of read what is there, but also able to kind of connect with magazine in another level. So those are some of the things that's kind of trending, or some of the concepts that's actually fast catching up with regard to magazines. For instance, again, there's another example where you can kind of use this for a coupon, or to know more about what the product is all about. Because again, the space for advertisement is also limited, but then the readers might want to know more about what the product is, or what are some of the salient features that's there in the product. So you can use that using a QR code. And in other words, it's also called near field communication chips. What it does is, you have to take the phone pretty much close to the magazine, probably like about like 1 centimeter or something, and that will kind of pick up the kind of content and give you more details about what the still things all about. For instance, there is a gym that's opening up near your neighborhood, and you just want to kind of try have a free trial. Okay, so yes, probably you can just go to the place and get a free trial. But then this electronic interface makes things easier for you. All you can do is you can have a 3-day pass right into your phone, and you can use that to kind of get access to the gym. So how technology is kind of creating that kind of a phase where it makes your life a little bit easier. So again, the technology also plays a role in terms of advertisement as well, for the company to show that how they are tech savvy, and also magazines that also they are tech savvy as well. So there are a lot of things that's actually kind of shaping up in terms of technological innovation in the field of magazine. And as I told you, magazine is all about making profit. So we are looking at, magazine is also subconsciously it kind of dictates the terms and the standards of beauty in our society. And if you look at, the global market for a magazine, it's really huge. For instance, Esquire and Vogue and Elle and Cosmopolitan, they have global impact. So not only it has a presence in the United States, it also has a global impact. Looking at how it's the imperialism of the United States, because everyone in the world looks up to the United States for fashion or beauty, because they think like they are the specialist in that particular field. And they pretty much dictate the fashion statement globally. And New York can be said the capital of fashion world. And magazines also kind of capitalizes the regional presence of their headquarters in the United States. And they also have a global craving for magazines. And just these numbers is a reflection of how powerful the magazine globally. And again, you might ask like how it is possible for to have a global presence. For instance, it's going to be this month issue of the People or the Vogue or Esquire. All they have to do is they also have to just beam their content, or have the servers to kind of transmit all the information, so that they can, people in the Australia or Asia or Africa or Europe can also simultaneously read the Esquire for this week, rather than waiting for a few months. Because imagine few years back, whatever magazine that's kind of published here, it has to be shipped physically or transported through ship or through air to various countries. But now with the access to various technology, it's also made it possible for instant distribution. And also the content also has a deep impact, because a lot of series that actually was also promoted in magazine has been made into television series. There are many shows that we can talk about that's on HBO, and many sites like Hulu and Netflix and Amazon. They also get inspiration and story ideas from magazines as well. So it is also a kind of feeding into the other mass media. So that's the thing we need to keep in mind, how books feeds into movies and television, and how magazines also feeds into television. And I think I don't remember anything that comes from magazine, but I remember I think uh, some movies actually started as comics and then made into movies. But yes, the point is a magazine does have an impact on all the other mass media as well. And one of the important thing that I wanted to talk to you is about, a magazine was truly a national medium for quite some time. Because for instance, when earlier newspaper was only a content that was there for information, but people only want to know what's happening around the neighborhood or locality or in the world. But at one point in time, people wanted to know in depth, detailed coverage of what it is all about. And magazine gave that platform for the in-depth analysis and coverage. And pretty much I think the Saturday Evening Post was one of the most successful magazines. And the magazine actually, the first magazine was printed somewhere around 1740. I think Andrew Bradford was the guy who launched the first American magazine. It was called American Magazine. I think 3 days later, Benjamin Franklin also started magazine. It was General Magazine. But the Saturday Evening Post was considered a pioneer in the field of magazines, and there were many magazines that came in the beginning of the 20th century, and there are still magazines that are very popular. And one of the things that we need to understand is the main thing is of magazines is it's specifically for a targeted audience, and it's easy in that way to connect advertisement to that particular audiences. And this sense also has some issues because sometimes the advertisers has so much control over the content. For instance, let's look at this particular ad. Okay, look at this particular ad. On one side it gives you tips on staying healthy, and with the food pyramid and all that, and simultaneously they are placing an ad about valley organic natural probiotic yogurt. See, subconsciously you might think, okay, just side by side with this article, but then when this message is reinforced, you always connect with staying fit and healthy with this particular product. And when you're shopping, walking down your grocery stores aisle, you will find Your Valley organic. Maybe you connect, well, okay, I think I want to be something like eating probiotic yogurt, and you might pick this up. So this is what they do. Advertisement is all about reinforcing the message again and again, so that it kind of embeds in your mind and makes you make the decision when you're buying or shopping. So this is considered to be an effective advertisement, but also it comes with a price. Sometimes they manipulate us, and there are issues where advertisement have so much of control over their magazine content. Because for instance, there are many companies like Shell and BP, where sometimes they will have the advertisement the magazine company to send in the copy, so that they wanted to review the copy, so that sometimes a magazine content will talk about environmental disaster, but at the same time they'll also have an ad of PP somewhere. So they don't want that kind of mixing of content like that, because in that way they are presented in a very bad image, and they don't want that kind of negative impact for their brand value. And that is called an ad pull policy, because a lot of advertisements, they want an advanced review of the magazine content, which really happens. I think when we're talking about free press and all this stuff, when these kind of thing exists, that kind of puts an ethical dilemma for the magazine editorials and stuff like that, because unfortunately the money is the one thing that dictates the content, and not the content itself. So that is something of it's a kind of disconcerting. Okay, now let's have a kind of a small experiment. Okay, of all these pictures that you see, okay, what do you think that you might have as a magazine cover? You want to go with the lady on the left or on the right, or you want to go with all the popular celebrities like Angelina Jolie or Ashley Graham, or a politician like Nancy Pelosi? It depends, right? But for most of the things, if you're trying to kind of get the attention, I will go with a person like Angelina Jolie or Ashley Graham, because they have some kind of face value, they are popular, they are attractive and all the stuff. But we are kind of sometimes biased because of the constant exposure to the standards of beauty. So those are the things that we need to keep in mind. Oh, sometimes media stereotypes. You see the one on the left top corner and the right top corner, it's the same girl. She's an Australian model, and she was doing some kind of bush race in Australia, and she got caught in a fire, and eventually she lost her beauty. But still she made a kind of she's still a popular figure in Australia, trying to promote the beauty and stuff like that. So again, all these things is very important. So magazine is truly a cultural medium, that has some national connectivity. Because as I told you, newspaper has only articles of current value, but magazine has lasting interest. And also it can cater to a wide audience, because back in 17th century and 18th century, magazine reach was kind of national. I think that is what can be considered truly a national mass medium ever. That credit can go to magazines. So those are the things that you need to keep in mind, and also look at the concept of how magazines are profit centered. And you can talk about the ad pull policy, you can talk about the globalization of magazines, and you can also talk about the technological impact. How magazine was only available traditionally in a physical format, but now it's available online. And now they are looking at the QR code scanner, the NFC aspect of near field communication, where you can interact with the magazines. And we're also looking at the content, how it kind of affects us in a lot of ways. And still, magazine sets the standards of beauty. Even though we are living at a time when we are living instant communication, we are looking at all the other aspects media, magazine still has relevance in our country, and that's one thing that we need to keep in mind. And I want you to kind of use these hashtags, so that you can post it on Twitter or on Instagram or Facebook, so that you can kind of reflect about what you have actually learned from this, from real life situation. So you can talk about how magazine still has relevance or not, and just kind of use this hashtag and feel and say what you feel like. And for those who don't want to do this social media hashtag and all that, I'm going to give you an alternate assignment, which I'm going to post it on D2L as well. And don't forget to finish the test for this class, and post it by 11 p.m. today.